Hey, so warmly welcome to this evening with the theme of what is Tantra? And as I have been announcing in the event, I would like it to be in the format of questions and answers. But before we go into that, I'm just going to introduce myself a little bit to those of you who have never met me. And I'm just going to unmute somebody or mute somebody. Yes, my name is Mia, and I have been exploring Tantra for about 20 years. And it started with me kind of trying to fit into the setting that everybody else was fitting into. I had finished university and worked for a few years in Ericsson with internal communications. And somehow I felt that something was lacking in my life. And I couldn't really understand why, because everybody else seemed happy with this life we were living in Stockholm, with the career and everything that is fun connected to that. But I had a longing inside of me for something else. And the thing is, I didn't know what it was that I was longing for. And actually, maybe I didn't even know that it was a longing. It was just a feeling that something was missing. And there were moments when I thought that something might be a problem with me. It's so easy to turn that inwards and see, oh, but everybody else is happy with this and I'm not. So maybe there's something wrong with me. And what happened, to make a very, very long story short, is that when I found the tantric adventure, I realized that there was absolutely nothing wrong with me at all. I found out that everything was perfect just the way it was, including myself. And for that, of course, I was extremely grateful, because I had been searching for something that I didn't know what it was that I was searching for. And that's not so easy, to look for something that you don't know what it is. And I followed my intuition, leaving my job and went traveling around the world for more than once. I went on different journeys, and not all of them were taking me home to myself. But eventually I ended up in India, where I really committed myself to meditation. And that's when this shift starts to happen, where I really feel like such an homecoming within myself. And for me, that is basically what Tantra is about. It's about realizing the beauty of what already exists. And a key word in that is intimacy. It's to be intimate with whatever is happening and whatever is. And I think that was what I was lacking in the life I lived before. Everything happened so fast, and I felt there was we were on the surface of things. I didn't feel this depth of connection and intimacy that I was yearning for. And I think that's very natural to yearn for that if we don't have it, because we're kind of born in that. We come to this world from intimacy with the mother. And when that starts to be missing in our lives, we start to feel a little bit of pain, undefined pain, and we start to analyze what is wrong with us. And, and that can take many years and cost a lot of money and energy to try to find out what is the problem with me. While actually it might be that we are perfect just the way we are. We just need to find a way to live that matches our deepest longing and our deepest needs. So what I felt after having spent all that time in India, coming home to Sweden, was that okay, now I also have to function in this world and I need to make a living. And I couldn't find anything else that I wanted to do or even think of doing something else than just giving this gift to other people, because it was the most precious thing I have ever experienced in my life. So since then, that's what I've been doing. And I feel, of course, very blessed for having that opportunity, because that means I didn't have to go back into the structure of being employed, which didn't fit me. So I have been living according to my needs and desires, and that is also something that I feel very grateful about. So that's shortly the background. And then I started to work with coaching and leadership, which was the most easy way to make a living in the way I wanted to do it. And then when I worked with the clients over the years, I more and more realized that the more I could guide my clients into feeling their bodies and really being aware of what's going on in the bodies, which is intimacy with self, the easier they could move into what they were longing for and desiring. So I started to integrate yoga, meditation, and tantra into that coaching and leadership practice. And today I call it embodied leadership or conscious leadership. It's the same elements that we are using within yoga and tantra and meditation. We're bringing them also into leadership. So that's how, this is my kind of menu of things that I do, but they all are the same thing. They're all about coming home to yourself. So one of the persons I've shared parts of this journey with is Bea, that is here as a guest this evening. And I just would like to invite you to introduce yourself, Bea.
Thank you, Mia. I'm Bea, and I like this word, Mia, explored Tantra for 14 years and met Mia on my path several times. And she's also been a teacher of mine. And I really, really appreciate her way of teaching Tantra. I have several teachers, and I've been a teacher myself for many years. And now I teach Tantra, but I do it in a totally different way through teaching relationship, codependency, and unsafe attachment, because that stands in the way for deep intimacy with ourselves. So I took a little different grip on the tantric teaching, but I'm still exploring Tantra in my life and in my work. And now I am soon, I think it's 5 weeks from now, I'm published in Nordstedts förlag in Sweden with a book about the tantric world and my experience from Tantra. That's the title in Swedish is Vilsna själars paradis, and that's in English is the lost souls, the paradise of the lost souls. What can actually happen when you are lost in yourself and try to find your way through other people? And that's exactly what happened to me, and actually damaged me more for several years than it healed me. But I'm very, very grateful that this book will be published, and I will talk about it more later on in this question and answer webinar. So thank you, Mia, for having me.
Thank you. And I would like to add to that becoming aware of that your book is coming out soon is one of the things that inspired me to do this seminar, because this book is, of course, gonna, stir up the field a little bit, because it's about bad experiences of Tantra. So I'm also sure that the book will include what can be good about Tantra. But I just felt that it's combined with you releasing the book, I think this is going to be one of many conversations about what is Tantra and where does it go wrong and where can it go right. So that's part of the background for this evening. And I also have a lot of compassion with all the people who had another experience. I have been very lucky, and I know that many people have ended up in situations around Tantra that have been very unpleasant. And it feels like it's important to show that there is a way to do this with where you will actually benefit from it and not get into trouble. So before I invite you to ask questions, I just wanted to clarify something about what I meant with coming home. Like, what does that mean, really? And the easiest way to describe it might be it's a deep sense of contentment. And it's a contentment that doesn't have anything to do with external circumstances. And this is really like something that you can only experience. You can't understand it before you have experienced it. Because we always tend to think and believe that our life quality is determined by external experience, like what if we are, you know, lucky and with the career and our relationships and our health and everything, then we can be content. But what I have experienced is to feel deeply unhappy and at the same time totally blissed out. And this is for me the homecoming. It means even if I'm deeply unhappy, I can still be content. And it seems a bit like a paradox. But also, I think that most people have experienced this for maybe shorter moments in their life, but maybe not being aware of that was happening. It can be like in a context of like giving up, and giving up is very close to surrender. That is different than giving up because it's a very pleasant feeling. Surrender is more like deeply accepting what is, not as like, oh, I just have to accept this, but more like, yes, this is how it is, and it's perfect just the way it is, even though it was not my plan or the way I wanted it. So this feeling of homecoming is, for me, the essence of all spiritual practices, basically. And it can have different nuances, of course. But I just wanted to mention that. And I also wanted to mention that, of course, I have also had my not so great experiences in Tantra. But for the most part, I have had this inner discernment of just knowing where not to go. And for me, that is part of the tantric life. It's to really feel intuitively what is your way, where to go, where not to go. And that is something that can deepen with practice over years, so that you become more and more sure. And of course, if you're new on the path, you're an easy target for people who don't have the best intentions. So now the question is there anybody who has a question? So if you speak, your voice will be recorded, but where you probably won't be visible. They usually only record the person. Yeah, they record the person who is speaking, right? But you can also write something in the chat. I have a bunch of frequently asked questions also that I can address, but feel free to ask something if you want to. Okay, so let's start with this, the most common. Oh, now we have a question. How would you explain Kundalini to somebody not in Tantra? Yeah, Kundalini is life force energy, sexual energy. The image I like to describe it with is, you know, those flowers that can grow through asphalt. That the life energy is so powerful that it can penetrate something very hard, but at the same time, it's extremely soft and vulnerable. So because we have this connection between power and hardness. And this metaphor shows clearly that power can be very, very soft. And Kundalini energy is something very delicate. But if provoked in a not so healthy way, it can be quite rough. So as an example on how to take care of this energy is the Tantra yoga that I'm doing every day activates, circulates, and integrates Kundalini energy in a very soft and gradual way so that it doesn't, you know, knock you out or anything. But it makes you feel alive. It's a feeling of aliveness, and it's connected with the sexual energy. And you could say that it is sexual energy, but it's so subtle that you might not perceive it as sexual energy. And that is one of the main things that you learn on the tantric path, is to feel subtle energy. So you learn to feel the things that you normally don't feel because you're too like busy running around drinking coffee and forgetting to feel your body. So when returning home to your body, feeling the subtle sensations within, you will feel your Kundalini energy as something very pleasant and something very powerful. That's where you bring your life force energy and bring it out in the world to manifest whatever is your dream. And yeah, this question is like, not like I also said in the invitation, I don't have any like ultimate answers, but this is one way of looking at it. And it's basically creation, the energy of creation, what we are born from, what we are made of. And it can be very limited in our human experience if we are not aware of our physical bodies. The Kundalini energy can be very repressed, and that means that we are maybe also not fully in our creative power. That is the same thing as being fully in our sexual power, but again, it doesn't necessarily feel like sex. So this is maybe one of the key elements in Tantra, how we relate to sexual energy and life energy, and how they're not separate. In a more traditional way of looking at sexuality, it's like sexual energy is something you do in the bed after dark, and then you go to work and then you forget about that. Whereas in Tantra, you can't separate this. You can't really in any way. You can try to, but it doesn't work that way. Because if you try to repress this energy, it usually comes out in very awkward ways. And speaking about Tantra contexts where things have not gone so well, of course, this is partly because the leaders in these situations have not handled their own sexual energy very well, and it spills out on the group. And that can, of course, happen not only in a Tantra course, but in any workplace this happens. The whole Me Too movement is about, we haven't learned to take care of our sexual energy. It's a gift and it needs to be treated as such. And that is where Tantra is the revolution for how we take care of our life energy. And that is another topic that is maybe good to add to this. It's not another topic, it's a connected topic, but that we have learned to relate to sexual energy as something that we need to get rid of as fast as possible. While actually it's something that can nurture us from within, so that instead of the sexual energy creating problems for us, it really becomes our most precious resource that fuels us in everything we do in life. And now we have another question here. Could you briefly explain how Tantra knowledge can affect my relationship with my partner? Because my sexual life is disaster and going to be destroyed very soon. Our relationship is going down every day. Yeah, thanks for that question, because this is basically how it is for most people. I used to think that people who live together for many years are lovers and have a sexual intimacy. But that is actually very, very rare. People have that in the beginning, and then it doesn't work anymore, and then they stay together anyway because they have other things in common. Very rarely people who live together for many, many years have an active sexual love life in that relationship. And I was kind of shocked when I found out this. I found this out by work because I meet so many people. So statistics is telling me that most people don't have a satisfying sex life within their relationships. And so what I'm saying with that is that you're not alone. And this is due to what I said before, that we have learned that sexual energy is something that we need to get rid of. So practically that means that we have sex for a very short time usually, and that is not enough to nurture us. The statistics for a normal intercourse is 5 minutes, more or less, depending on which study you look at. And that is not, knowing my body and feeling this for so many years, that's not how sex is meant to be. Sex is something to really, really enjoy for a long time together. And of course, once the bodies know each other and are open, that can be combined with quickies and short moments of sexual encounters. But in the basis, you need to really give the body time to open up. I'm sure you heard about full body orgasms or energetic orgasms, and these are things that takes time for the body to open up for. You really need to allow time to relax and be with each other. And this is where we express love. We express love by not needing to rush anywhere. We express love by really, really being intimate with another, showing respect by being fully there, having no plan, no agenda, just being together, allowing energy to move us. So we don't need to do anything. Basically, the bodies know how to make tantric love. But we stress our bodies so much that they forget that. So this is an invitation to just be together. And actually, one of the really practical tips that you can bring with you maybe is that non-sexual touch is awakening sexual energy, usually more than touch with a sexual intention. And this is just a very basic misunderstanding about how we interact physically. That when we touch each other in a non-sexual way, the body fully relaxes, and then the sexual energy will arise from within your own body. And that's where it becomes real, authentic, something that you can enjoy alone or together. And the sexual education that is about that we're supposed to stimulate each other has kind of turned this upside down. So basically, it's your responsibility to take care of your body and your sexual energy, and your partner can support you in that while being there fully with you, holding you, touching you, and being present with you, and listen to what's happening. So it's about following energy, not taking the lead of energy. And this is where we human beings, our egos have become so big that we think that we have to take the lead in everything. While actually energy is leading us, and what we need to do is to relax into becoming so intimate with life that we can hear, feel, listen where energy is guiding us. And this is like art, it's like music, it's like poetry. It's very, very delicate and so very, very beautiful, but we can't access that if we are overstimulated. And traditional sexuality promotes overstimulation with too much physical friction that numbs our bodies and our sexual organs. So you can start with just touching genitals without having any intention. And then genitals have a lot of fun in their own in their own inner life. We just need to let them be. So that's like one of the very basic tantric practices you can do with a partner, is just to hold your hands on their genitals without having any intention that something specific needs to happen. And then you will see what might happen. And of course, you can also do this on your own with your own genitals. And that is beautiful in a different way. Yeah. So I don't know if that answered the question, but here we had something. Yes, it seems like it answered the question, and it needs practice and patience. And yes, patience is really, really the key element here. You know, it's like being out on the river fishing. That takes patience. We have to just sit there in the boat and wait until the fish kind of comes up, and that can take hours. And, you know, imagine how hard work fishing would be if you would stand in the boat and trying to catch fish like actively. And that's how basically we learned about sexuality, that it's something we need to kind of work our way through. And that has damaged our way of relating to sexuality and to our own sexual energy and to our bodies. So honoring, it's about honoring what is. And honoring always requires patience. It's something, it's a non-doing, it's a being. Honoring is something you do by being present without having any expectation. So another question that I very often get is this, if Tantra is only about sex. And of course, it's not only about sex, but that's how media kind of describes it because they don't know what it is. And trying to describe something from the outside, looking at it, will not give a fair description. So as I said in the beginning, for me, Tantra is about coming home. It's about really living life to its fullest, not by chasing every dream you have on your bucket list, but by learning to really, really appreciate what is, exactly what is, moment by moment. And that is applicable in all situations in life. And Tantra also gives guidance around sexuality, on how to be with sexual energy. And that's why it has gotten this reputation about being only about sex. So I think it also shows that we have a huge gap, like a lack of sexual education in our society. And when Tantra starts to express things around sexuality, that's what people grab, because we have such a huge need for some proper guidance within this field. Anybody else who wants to ask something? Another question that I get a lot is, because we're using slowness as a key element to really be present with each other, moving slowly, touching slowly, engaging slowly, giving time. So then some people ask, does it always have to be slow and soft? Especially regarding tantric sexuality. And I like to use the metaphor of a river for that. That a river sometimes is flowing very, very slowly and gently. And sometimes it's full power, a lot of energy and force. But it's always authentic. So that the reason we're using slowness in Tantra practices is because we need to relearn that, because we were too much in a hurry and trying to make the river flow faster instead of surfing what already is. So we kind of have to reverse that by using slowness. But once we are grounded in slowness, one thing that will happen is that we will probably love that so much that we will spend a lot of time with that. But also that once, for instance, sex gets more rough or fast, it is grounded in that softness and slowness. And then it doesn't become abusive. It can still be very, very intimate. And this, I think, is very important to address, so that we understand that we don't have to remove things that we like in sex to practice Tantra. They are all welcome elements when the respect, the connection, the intimacy, the presence is there. Anything can be tantric. So I think maybe now would be a good time to invite you, Bea, if you would like to tell us a little bit about the background and this book that you have written, and also about discernment in the tantric field.
Oh yes, I want to talk about different thing now. No, because it's so fun when I hear you speak, and you speak about like the slowness and the waiting, and so many of my friends that has never practicing tantra, they have this odd picture of me and my partner having sex together, always with candles, white dress, and eye gazing together in some kind of meditative state. And I was like, you would not even see any different because it's an internal process. So tantra for me is happening inside of me and sharing that meeting with my partner. So I said, like, you wouldn't see a difference if me and my partner have sex, but we would call it tantric sex. So it was so fun. So many that haven't practicing tantra or are quite new think that it looks in a certain way. So yeah, I also, before I come into the book and the discernment of like choosing a teacher and your tantric path, and what I would want to give you from this session is that, like Mia said in the beginning, tantra for me is about deep intimacy with yourself. It's such an internal process. It's such a spiritual, deep exploration of who you are and your body and what your body can do. And when I started to practicing tantra 14 years ago, I was blown away. I was like, why haven't anyone taught me this before, that my body is able to do all these things that I didn't have a clue. I know now, and I live by it. So that is such an amazing part. And I want to say that tantra truly have blessed me in so many ways, and I still teach tantra. So I it's not that I, with my book, wants to say something that tantra is bad. It's more like I was very lost when I came into the tantric world, and I come from a background where my father's an alcoholic, my mother is a codependent. I have an insecure attachment style. If you want, maybe you know what that is. When you grow up and you don't really have all your needs fulfilled, you can go into an unsafe attachment style. 50% of all our population in Sweden has actually that. So it's not so rare. And I have an anxious attachment style. That means that I dance the dance of, oh, I want confirmation and love from you, and often from people where I can't get it. And that's where I came into the tantric world. And even if tantra blessed me in so many ways, and it totally did, but my patterns also expanded. That dance, I could dance it with all the participants in the workshops, like, oh, do you see me? Do you want to do this exercise with me? Am I worth something now? Or do you like me? Or can I belong here? And in the tantric world, for me, it was so easy to feel this belonging, because everything was so clear. Like, you do this, you are having a certain form of clothes on. You come with yoga pants. You don't come with a certain jeans or suit or whatever. It's like, yeah, it's very easy to read the guidelines in those settings. And when you're codependent, you love that because you want to fit in. And I was all about fitting in. So I didn't. So in one way, my body was released, but my patterns were worsened, or they got worse and worse and worse in the tantric world, because I wasn't aware of my patterns. I wasn't aware of my codependency. I wasn't aware of my attachment style, and my teachers, I had several teachers over the years, and my teacher, they said, no, that's spiritual. No, selfless serving, that's spiritual. That's something very good, Bea. And as a codependent, you give up yourself and go like, yeah, okay. And that led me to burnout finally. And so it was pattern after pattern after pattern that they really taught me, this is spiritual, you should do that, you should be totally boundless. Boundaries is ego, I were taught in the tantric teachings. Like, oh my lord, if you come to a workshop with me, you have to learn boundaries, because without boundaries there is no intimacy. There is just intensity. And in a lot in the tantric world, it's all about intensity, intensity, intensity. Because when we lack the possibility to be intimate with ourselves, the only way to go is intensity. You have to feel more. You have to have this explosive energetic meetings. You have to have full body orgasms all the time. Yeah, that's really cool and a really nice experience, but for me it's not tantra. It's something else, because the intimacy is lacking. So this book is actually about 5 years of my I belong to school. So this is 5 years with that teacher and that school, and it's equally much about my codependency and my fucked upness, because that's how it is. You entangle with your teacher also. So what you need to do, I get so many questions like, who can I go to? Who can I practice in tantra with? And I said, you need to know your own patterns. Check your own, what is your own patterns? How are you giving yourself up? How are you going into intensity instead of intimacy, for example? And then you have to find the teachers that already done that journey, that already worked on their codependency, that's already aware of addiction, that's already aware of what kind of attachment style do I have. And in the tantric field, there is so many people with unsafe attachment style. Like, I would say 90% of all the people in the tantric field is coming with codependency, love addiction, sex addiction, unsafe attachment style in different like degrees, and are not aware of it. And then suddenly you can play it out, and it's spiritual. And often it leads to more suffering and further away, actually, on your tantric path. So ask your teacher, what kind of patterns do you come from? How is your codependency? Have you ever dealt with addiction? Ask them, be curious. Don't just listen to them, because they can tell you everything and you will absorb it from your patterns. Like, yeah, yes. But ask them, how was this for you? What did you do? Have you ever done a 12-step program? Have you ever dealt with this? Have you ever been in therapy yourself? How has your path been? Not just the sexual, but also the deep, intimate journey into yourself. So I would never go to a teacher today that haven't can give me answers of those questions. So please ask them. And if they don't want to answer, that's a red flag. That's a red flag. So for me, for example, and that's why I'm in this room, I sent so many people to Mia, because I know she's done her journey. I know she's done her footwork, and that she's grounded in in that intimacy with herself, and that she knows about her patterns and what also can happen. Because when a teacher knows about that, they can also hold space for that in the group, and the group gets much more clean than when one is unconscious about it, because then it's leaking into the group as well. So I'm so open to questions, if you want. And the book is called Vilsna själars paradis, and you can already what do you say, pre-book it on the everywhere online. You can pre-book it if you want to read it.
I'm really looking forward to read it.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Many people do. How was it to be
Yeah,
there?
because actually I haven't been in the same school that Bea has, but I remember when it started in Sweden, and I met the leader of this school in a private party just before they started to give courses in Sweden, and he was so fucking creepy. I just remember, like, okay, I'm never gonna go to a course with this guy because of how he treated his woman that was there with him, with very, very unkind way. And so I think I was in that way lucky, because then suddenly so many of the people around me started to go to that school, and I was like, whoa, this can't be well. And then it turned out not so well.
Yeah, and that's also like you said in your part about intuition.
Yes.
I didn't have any intuition. I had so vague intuition, and I never trusted it myself. I trusted everyone else, especially a spiritual teacher. It's like, yeah, okay, this is it. And in my journey, I have come to places where I felt like, no, this is actually off. But the whole group has been telling me, no, now you are ridiculous. Of course, this is right. This is amazing. We should not have any boundaries. We should do this and this and this. Now you're just a prude. It's like, okay. And that's how it is to be codependent. You constantly question yourself. So for me to do, I have done the 12-step program 5 times on different issues, and every time I'm also doing it right now, and every time I go into more intimacy with myself and life, because I'm peeling off whatever thoughts I have, whatever patterns I have, that I believe in, I need, and I can just peel them off, and there is so beautiful, delicious intimacy. So whenever now I recognize, like, oh, I have also a problem with this, okay, let's do the 12-step program, because I know that the peeling of the patterns is so beautiful, and it brings you so much closer to yourself. Yeah. And there is more ways than the 12-step program, but I have been doing that, and a lot of therapy. So
yeah, so I mean, that's the discernment is about learning to trust your own body and your own intuition and the sensations within your own body. And
yeah, and Mia, if you have problem with that, you need to do like when you are having tantric sex. You have to wait. Don't rush it in, because you, like, the fear of missing out, for example. Wait. You're not in a hurry.
No. And this is part of learning to listen to the guidance from life, or intuition, whatever we call it. It is about patience. It is often about, okay, I can't decide what to do. No, so then wait. Because sooner or later life will tell you. But we don't have that trust. We just have to try to manipulate things and, rush through it. And that is very sad because we miss out on this precious inner gift that we have. So another thing that I would like to address here is this, you know, if you feel that the teacher is off, trust that. And if you don't want, if you feel that another participant is behaving strangely, trust that. It's so important, you know, because it can also eat not only the teachers, but also other participants. We feel that, oh, he was doing that or she was doing that, but maybe I'm wrong here or something. But you're never wrong with what you feel. That's always the guidance. So to cultivate this within your own life, even if you don't go to tantra courses or have a tantric partner, the practice is to really feel sensations in the body and to give time for that, because when we're on the run, usually we don't feel it so much. You might need to sit down and feel your body, feel your breathing. And within that relaxing of the body, you also invite and allow your mind to relax into the present experience of what is. And that's actually the essence of meditation. It's not trying to stop the mind from doing its thing, but you invite it to something more interesting, being present with the body. And that's not more interesting for the mind in the beginning, because it's much more fun to think about the project and the plans and whatever. So that also requires patience to really continuously invite the mind to relax into the present experience, into the body. And eventually the mind will realize its oneness with the body. And then this inner conflict will gradually cease. Where you feel confused, you know, your heart wants one thing and your mind wants another. That's a split, separation. And non-duality points us into resolving that split. And the split is actually created by the mind. So what we need is to allow the mind to take some rest, to stop thinking that it's going to organize everything, and just relax into becoming intimate. Again, it's all about intimacy. The mind becomes intimate with the body, and the body and mind are experienced as one. In yoga, we call it the body-mind. It's not two separate things. And according to science, it isn't either. And when body-mind starts to flow as a wholeness, as a oneness, that's the deepest essence of tantric experience, regardless of if it's about gardening or sex. And the tantra means weave, meaning everything's connected. And when you experience your body mind as one, within that experience, you're also no longer disconnected from anything. You're connected to everything. And that's what this word points towards. Weave means like weaved together, as the word yoga means unity, also meaning togetherness, everything together. You can't do anything without, you know, affecting everything else. And that is not something we need to create. That is already happening. What we need to do is to stop resisting that, trying to pretend that we're separate, because we're not. And that's going to always be feeling like a fight. So the effortlessness that we're all longing for in life comes from this relaxing and letting go of the body and of the mind. And then this energy will start to show itself. But it requires patience. And maybe that is, you know, the main ingredient in human life to be able to continue, is to relearn to relax and be intimate with life as it is. And of course, when it comes to tantric sex, that oneness with your own body mind, being in oneness with another body mind is a melting into the divine. And I'm using the word divine because there's really no way to describe it. And what all spiritual experiences have in common is that we can't really put them into words, because they are not expressing themselves that way. They're expressing themselves as something you feel in the moment, and then it's gone. It's like not so easy to put words on. And that's why journalists can't describe Tantra unless they are practicing themselves. You really need to be in it to feel it and to experience it. So now we have been speaking a lot. Is there anybody who wants to ask the last question? Wow, then we must have said everything. Well,
I can ask something.
Hey.
Hey, I find it quite interesting. I read quite a lot lately about the two versions of feeling like arouse or lust, or like that it comes from within, and another way of that you're more you relate more to that comes from when someone else is touching you. When you're in the moment of it, it opens up your body. That is like two different ways of going into sexual, and it's very common. And it's like, I just find it quite interesting that sometimes I find some people are struggling so much to find the initiative must come from me, and it doesn't in a relationship. Sometimes one is more taking the initiative, and that maybe that's also natural. That is nothing we have to fight for, that it's got to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, for me it was just kind of nice to read that and to feel into that, what type I am and what.
Yeah, I interpret what you're saying as, we're guiding people to find their own sexual energy in Tantra, which is important and crucial. But as many other things, it doesn't exclude the other side of the coin, that you can also give to each other and trigger each other in this. It's just important that it's not done from a lack of a person, because this is what I have met when coaching couples. A lot of times somebody in the couple is expecting the other person to sexually stimulate them as some kind of service from their own lack of feeling their own sexual energy, because they are so stressed out in their lives that they can't feel their own body. So but once a person has a connection to their own sexuality, of course, we can amplify that by playing with each other in that sense. So I think what you're addressing here, in a way, is very important, because it's some of the tantric teaching, if they can be dogmatic if they only show one side. And like we were speaking about earlier, it's not only about slowness and softness, but when slowness and softness is there as a ground, then all the other stuff can come in too.
And I think for me is also this, that it's so important to feel your own body and your own experience of sexual energy or energy, whatever. And but sometimes it can also become a bit harsh and disconnected, because you are. Oh, am I doing thumbs up now? And because we're practicing to set boundaries, or we're practicing, and it's kind of new, so it can come out quite hard, because I need to feel before but to stay in connection and still, I think that's super important in my relationship.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about that, because we have different ways of expressing, and it can also feel very, to stay in love.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be my way or her way or his way or whatever.
Yeah. Can I add something there? Because this is my favorite topics about relationship. What we often do when we put up a boundary, for example, that we go into separation. Can you like see that picture? It's like, no, I don't want that. And then one at least is separating and turning away from love. And in that moment, when we stand still and stay in love, we expand. The love is expanding. And that is such a beautiful practice to not give yourself up, but just stand there and see what happened when something bigger than you actually come and expand your love space. So because we often want to, oh, you're stupid, or yeah, I'm right, or some way we want to separate from this person because this person maybe hurts us. And then we just stay with an open heart and just see what happens. It's so beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
So thank you all for this evening. I really enjoyed this, as I thought I would. And the recording will be sent both to you who were here tonight and to many people who signed up who couldn't come tonight. So see you out there somewhere. My website is bodylovetantra.com, and /events. There you can see all the events in date order. I guess that's it.
Thank you, Mia.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Keep enjoying. And if you feel lost, take a moment and feel the sensations in your body, and they will tell you what is.
Goodbye.
Bye.